This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Wednesday, August 19th. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ephraim Graham. Former Vice President Joe Biden is now officially the Democrats' presidential nominee after receiving the majority of the delegate votes. CBN's Eric Phillips reports the second night brought more words of support, but few specifics of what a Biden administration might bring.
The virtual Democratic convention has forced planners to be creative, and it showed during Tuesday's nomination process.
I'm pleased to announce that Vice President Joe Biden has officially been nominated by the Democratic Party.
There may not have been the traditional pomp and circumstance.
Thank you very, very much. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all.
But an unprecedented virtual roll call from state to state created an excitement that built to small, yet spirited celebrations like this one with the Biden family in Delaware. But the night was not all smiles. Democrats once again got down to the business of going after incumbent Donald Trump.
A man who only knows how to deny and distract.
Accusing him of trying to dismantle the Affordable Care Act before mishandling the pandemic.
Only when COVID exploded in even more states did he encourage people to wear masks. By then, many more were dying. When asked about the surge in deaths, he shrugged and said, "It is what it is."
Presidents should never say it is what it is. President Lincoln, honoring the great sacrifice at Gettysburg, didn't say it is what it is.
One nation
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
American citizens were also on hand saying how much the Affordable Care Act means to them.
It saved my life. I'm here today.
Democrats kept the message going of Republicans backing this Democrat, first in an emotional video depicting the close relationship Biden enjoyed with the late Senator John McCain. Another notable Republican drew a stark contrast between Biden and the current commander-in-chief.
With Joe Biden in the White House, you will never doubt that he will stand with our friends and stand up to our adversaries, never the other way around.
The night was topped off with words from Biden's wife, Jill, who offered a convincing vote of confidence.
The burdens we carry are heavy, and we need someone with strong shoulders. I know that if we entrust this nation to Joe, he will do for your family what he did for ours. Bring us together and make us whole.
You can see why she's the love of my life, the rock of our family. She never gives herself much credit, but the truth is, she's the strongest person I know.
There was a lot of talk about the struggle and adversity the Biden family has had to overcome, including the tragic death of their son, Beau. The Bidens signaling that they would bring that same inner strength to the White House if elected. Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Eric, thank you. President Trump was in Yuma, Arizona yesterday, checking on the construction of a border wall between the United States and Mexico. He spoke at a quick campaign rally and used the opportunity to counterattack Joe Biden and the Democrats. He told supporters Biden would unleash a flood of illegal immigrants like the world has never seen. President Trump was in Iowa as well yesterday, visiting the storm-ravaged state. It was declared a disaster zone after storms damaged or destroyed thousands of homes. 70,000 homes are still without power, a week after last Monday's powerful Derico hit. 4 people were killed in the storm that packed 100-mile-an-hour winds. 14 million acres were wiped out, destroying more than a third of the state's crops. Things will stay as is at the United States Postal Service, at least through the election. The Postmaster General is delaying new operational changes and cost-cutting measures after some Democrats claim they could negatively impact mail-in voting practices come November. In a statement, Postmaster General Louis DeJoy said he believes changes are necessary for the long-term sustainability of the Postal Service and that, quote, work toward those reforms will commence after the election. The S&P 500 closed at an all-time high Tuesday. Analysts say it was a milestone for Wall Street in recovering from historic losses caused by the pandemic. The index closed at 3,389.78, more than 7% higher than the previous record of 3,386.15 set on February 19th before COVID-19 lockdown shut down businesses. A popular COVID-19 test could be giving invalid or false negative results, according to the Food and Drug Administration. The FDA says the tests produced by Thermo Fisher Scientific are vulnerable if not properly processed. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization warns young people are becoming the main spreaders of the virus. As college students return to school and gather for parties, it results in outbreaks. Several colleges had students returning to campus, are now canceling classes there, sending students home to study online instead. The Centers for Disease Control predicts up to 200,000 Americans could die from COVID-19 by Labor Day. Wearing a mask to protect from the spread of the virus has become a political issue. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden is calling for a mask mandate. Our Mark Martin is on this story.
Joe Biden urges governors to mandate mask wearing, calling on Americans to be patriotic to stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Protect your fellow citizens. Step up. Do the right thing. Do the right thing.
Biden points to the predictions of health experts that wearing a mask could save 40,000 lives.
Every single American should be wearing a mask when they're outside for the next 3 months at a minimum. Every governor should mandate mandatory mask wearing.
But President Trump disagreed.
Today we saw Joe Biden continue to politicize a pandemic and to show his appalling lack of respect for the American people. That's what it is. At every turn, Biden has been wrong about the virus, ignoring the scientific evidence and putting left-wing politics before facts and evidence.
Trump questioned if it is within the power of the presidency to issue such a mandate and called it stepping on governors throughout our country.
He wants the federal government to issue a sweeping new mandate to law-abiding citizens. He wants the President of the United States, with the mere stroke of a pen, to order over 300 million American citizens to wear a mask for a minimum of 3 straight months. And he thinks it's good politics, I guess, no matter where they live and no matter their surroundings.
Meanwhile, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends masks for children ages 2 and up. ABC News reports more than 2,000 students and staff nationwide have been quarantined after in-person classes resumed. Dr. Anthony Fauci told actor Matthew McConaughey on an Instagram Live Thursday that Americans need to make a choice.
You want to open the bars or you want to open the schools?
Multiple outbreaks across the U.S. have been linked to partying without masks and proper social distancing.
I want to turn overseas right now. An international tribunal in the Netherlands convicted a senior Hezbollah member of assassinating Lebanese Prime Minister 15 years ago. CBN's Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl reports it throws the spotlight on the Iranian-backed group once again.
The Special Tribunal for Lebanon all but blamed Syria and Hezbollah for involvement in Hariri's killing.
The growing opposition to the Syrian presence in Lebanon threatened Syria's interests. The trial chamber is of the view that Syria and Hezbollah may have had motives to eliminate Mr. Hariri and some of his political allies. However, there was no evidence that the Hezbollah leadership had any involvement in Mr. Hariri's murder, and there is no direct evidence of Syrian involvement in it.
Hariri was assassinated in a massive truck bomb blast in 2005 that killed 21 others and left damaged buildings and a huge crater. The only thing left of the driver was a tooth, so his identity was never uncovered. The verdict was delayed for years due to Hezbollah's grip on power. The court found one senior Hezbollah member guilty, while 3 others were acquitted of involvement in the murder.
He was assassinated because he was against the policy of the regime in Syria, and he wanted to take this regime out of Lebanon. We all said this, right? But when it comes from a court, that shows that what we've said before in the past is true.
Several years after the assassination, Rafiq Hariri's son, Saad Hariri, became prime minister. He resigned last October amid anti-government protests and a failing economy and stayed on as caretaker until January.
We all know the truth now, and it remains that justice will be executed regardless of how long it takes.
It's now up to Hezbollah to turn over Salim Jamil Ayash. The huge blast that rocked Beirut on August 4th, leaving nearly 200 dead, 6,000 wounded, and hundreds of thousands homeless, also caused many to point the finger at Hezbollah. The Iranian-backed group may have stored weapons at the port, adding to the explosion.
My demand is that the truth and justice for Rafiq Hariri and his comrades leads the way to knowing the truth and achieving justice for all the innocents that perished in the Beirut blast.
Hariri called on Hezbollah to come clean and for coexistence between the various factions in Lebanon. He said the only way they will be able to rebuild their country is if they are honest and work together. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Coming up, as the idea of socialism grows in popularity among younger Americans, a warning by someone who lived under it. But first, a look at the top trending stories on CBNNews.com. You're watching CBN News Newswatch. We'll be right back.
Before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Watch The Global Lane, Thursday night at 9:30.
And welcome back to CBN Newswatch. Surveys show many young people in the United States want to live in a socialist country, but history shows the utter economic destruction and total government control of socialism. Paul Strand introduces us to one man who grew up under such tyranny, and he has a dire warning for the young generation.
Georgian Banov leads worship across the world. Not only does he love rocking out for God, he's also a classical violinist. While Georgian rejoices in his freedom as a Christian, he still mourns over those who suffered for decades in his childhood home of Bulgaria, trapped behind the Iron Curtain.
They immediately went after killing every capitalist because, according to Karl Marx, capitalism is the main evil. They made them dig the ditch. They throw them in the ditch. They put fire on them, oil, and burn them.
We stand here at the Victims of Communism Memorial, dedicated to the more than 100 million people killed by the communists. It's important to remember that system and socialism are inextricably linked. After all, the communist USSR was the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, a system controlling everything that levels its citizens out by crushing individual incentive.
Everybody makes the same amount of money. So if you're good at certain and work hard, you don't get a dime more than the guy that sits and do nothing. So the productivity goes low and low and low. This is very destructive to successful economy.
Georgian points out how shortages inevitably follow.
There's nothing to buy because everything is so depleted. The only thing you could buy every day is bread.
Georgian remembers being one of the 5 families packed into a 5-room home, and he remembers the constant fear.
Now everybody's poor, and unless you're saying things that are in line 100% with the communist propaganda and doctrine, you get pulled out and eventually you disappear.
And in the schools, your life, profession, and even your beliefs are all dictated to you.
You are directly controlled by a supervisor who is over the teachers, so making sure everything you say supports the communists.
Georgian points out it's not just about economics, but snuffing out God. He explains Karl Marx, the man behind socialism and communism, despised God and wrote these words.
God, I hate you, and I'll hurt you by destroying the people you create for your glory. So the whole system is actually an antichrist system. They became the God. Praise us. Glorify the communists. So it was a religion.
Georgian saw how Bulgaria clamped down on Christians with an iron fist, and especially targeted Spirit-filled believers.
They had power. Now the Holy Spirit gives you power. So the Holy Spirit people were the most persecuted because they're the most unsubmissive. They didn't give their membership. They meet in secret only, underground. Bibles were confiscated, and every Bible press was destroyed.
For those who think America can have a softer, kinder socialism, Georgian wishes they could understand for this system to succeed, it has to take total control. And that means taking away freedoms. He contrasts that to the God who gives us freedom, gifts, and power to lovingly care for all.
You don't need to empower the government to fix your problems. We, the people, are well able to fix our problems. So instead of falling for what the communists will do for you, ask what God will do for you with the gift He's given you.
It was Georgian's gift of music that got him into trouble with the communists.
We were the first rock band ever to come on national television. We weren't even that good, but there was no bands to compare.
These rockers would drive their Bulgarian audiences wild and eventually catch the communist watchful eye.
Young people standing and clapping, to them is like revolution. They say, no clapping during songs.
And finally, the communists shut down the rock and roll in the middle of a big concert.
Unplugged all our guitars and instruments. You're all going home, no more rock and roll. This is out of control. That pushed me to want to get out of there, and I said, that's it, I can't handle this. Eventually, I got escaped through Iron Curtain and made it to the free country, yay!
And here in America, he met the Jesus people who led him to a personal encounter with God.
That's the first time I felt freedom that I longed for on the inside.
A freedom Georgian wants people to know they'll never find under socialism, and the control it will clamp on them. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from the Victims of Communism Memorial, Washington.
Still ahead, a wild heart worship experience with Kim Walker-Smith of Jesus Culture. She details her new project. Stay with us, you don't want to miss it.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
On the Home Front, Tuesday morning at 10:30.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government.
My focus has been trying to really make sure we have the future leaders we need for the bench and the bar and for society generally.
You'll learn from highly credentialed leaders who are current and former judges, distinguished scholars, and ACLJ counsel.
I'm so glad I chose Regent. The relationships here have been amazing. The faculty have been amazing. Not everybody's called to the same thing when they leave law school, but they're called by a God who has a purpose for their lives, and He is going to use that education to make a difference in the world.
Regent will prepare you to be a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer. To start your rewarding law career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July. Apply today.
You know her voice from Jesus Culture, but Kim Walker-Smith is also a solo artist with a fresh and timely project to share. It comes in the middle of a pandemic and at a time where the worship leader can't take the stage to sing at her California church. It's called Wild Heart. Here's just a sample of the music and a great conversation with her on Studio 5 about that new project.
I come out of agreement with the worry and the fear I've come to know. No, they won't have a hold on me. Protector, you never, never, never let me go. You said you wouldn't leave me and you won't. You're right by my side.
Wild Heart, tell me how that's come to be.
Well, we felt like it was time for another record. I think it'd been, three years, almost 4 years since On My Side released. And I'm a little bit, I'm the artist that I don't like to record solo records until I feel like I have a story to tell. I say I gotta live some life before I start, making more songs.
'Cause I know that you fight for me.
I went back to Redding, California, to the theater that I did Still Believe In, and the theater I got married in, and made a live record. On My Side was in the studio, which was, completely different than normal, but this one was recorded live. This is kind of my coming out of the desert season kind of record.
If you could compare the two, Wild Heart and On My Side, they're quite different.
Oh yeah. So the studio, that was a completely different experience for me and not really a typical experience because everything I'd done really was live with the exception of the album I did with my husband years ago. And I just felt like the songs and the story kind of needed to be told in the studio. It was just way more intimate and personal. All of those songs came out of a really hard season when my father died, when I had gone through postpartum depression. I just had a lot of things going on. And this record, I wanted to go back to live because that's where I'm most comfortable. I felt like I kind of came out of the desert season with my arms swinging a little bit.
Okay.
Like ready to fight, like ready, just a new outlook, but kind of a new fire inside of my soul and just ready to kind of go after some things. And so this record, I wanted it to not only express life, which is why we've got a lot of you see a lot of greenery and the plants and the trees and the forest and all of those things. But I also wanted it to express the nitty-gritty a little bit. That's why I said we need some dirt in there.
Yeah.
The nitty-gritty of life. And I really, I came out feeling like my faith was really renewed and stirred. And that's what I wanted this album to do for others. These songs, I wanted it to kind of stir and renew our faith and our trust in God, our hope in God, which is really funny because I obviously had no idea what we were heading into with this pandemic, like how much I would need that faith and that trust and that hope.
Yes.
It's a timely message for me as well.
Let that faith rise up in us tonight as
And you can catch more of my interview with Kim Walker-Smith tonight on Studio 5. It is on the CBN News Channel, and it begins at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Coming up, making an historic moment for a woman's right to vote. Stay with us.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
This week marks 100 years since American women secured a place in the democratic process. August 18th, 1920, Tennessee became the 36th state to give women the right to vote, becoming the 36th state to do so, giving the 19th Amendment enough votes to be ratified and added to the Constitution's Bill of Rights. President Trump marked the occasion, announcing an official presidential pardon for suffrage movement leader Susan B. Anthony, who was arrested for voting back in 1872. Time now for your Wednesday word, and today's word is something most of us don't enjoy: waiting. But know this, waiting on God does not mean standing still and doing nothing. With God, waiting is working where you are and trusting God for promotion in His perfect timing. With that word, don't waste this Wednesday. Work knowing God sees you, and He's doing a perfect work in you right now, making you ready for what's new and what's next. That will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow.